I'll just open with we finished up, I guess it was practice 17 today, 16 Saturday. I thought the guys were great. You know, we had 2 days off, which is the first time we've had 2 days off in a while consecutively, Sunday and Monday, and want them to get their legs back underneath them. And I thought they did that for the most part. Probably wasn't as crisp a practice as you'd like to have at practice 17, but the weather was cool, so we don't have any excuses. But we got to do a better job having good practices. And I thought Saturday was pretty good, but not as much today. I also would like to thank all the people that have supported Dogs for Pups. We've raised over $63,000 now, and a lot of that credit goes to the staff here. Josh Brooks has done a tremendous job. Cortez Hankton, a lot of our players have spearheaded that. And certainly when you talk about making a difference in young people's lives, we've been able to do that with the $63,000 raised. With that, I'll open it up.
All right, let's start with Mark Weiser.
Hey, Kirby. I think I've heard you say that you spent more time with players on this team than your other four. I wanted to ask you, with the other issues that have been on your radar in the weeks leading up to the season, do you think your intensity level when it comes to preparing your team to win games and championships is the same, or have you delegated some of that to the others with all this going on?
I don't think intensity ever changes personally. I mean, I'm a big believer in intensity, focus, concentration. I mean, we've got a motto around here: casualness causes casualties, and we just don't believe in that. And I think the minute you stop having intensity and a purpose, you're not coaching. So every coach has his own style, and mine is to be intense and demanding, and the players respect that. When I say I've spent more time with them, I think it's a lot more conversation we've had in terms of the social issues, more time on Zooms, more times bringing guys up one-on-one just to talk to them and see how they're doing and check on them. It's probably been more of that than ever before.
Anthony Dasher.
Yeah, Coach. I guess I'll jump right in with the quarterback question. Just kind of where you're at right now. JT cleared this could be something that could be a game time decision for you. You make the final call.
Yeah, JT is not completely cleared yet. He is practicing with us, as he's been doing. And if we didn't think he was going to be cleared, then we wouldn't be practicing him. But he's continuing to practice, and so is DeJuan, Carson, and Stetson. And as far as we can tell, it'll probably be a game time decision.
Mike Griffith, you have a question?
Hey, Coach. I guess I'm going to follow up on the quarterback deal. Obviously, there were a lot of boosters in the last scrimmage, and so there was plenty of reporting on it. What conclusions do you draw, or does anyone draw, from Dwan Mathis getting so many snaps with the ones and how work breaks down? And should people draw any conclusions from that?
They certainly have a right to. It doesn't concern me. I mean, it was part of the rotation as far as each day. Just so happens they were there that day. So, each day we've rotated guys that have gone with the ones, and that's the day that his fell on. So, for the most part, we've done a really good job for, I think, 16 practices, today being 17th, that we've rolled. That doesn't mean we've had a different guy every day, but we've got a rotation that we do, and that was just part of the rotation. So,
Seth Emerson.
Kirby, the kicking competition is a question I get asked a lot about. Where does that stand right now? Jared obviously was brought in. Jake, has his kicking background. Where do things stand there?
It's up for grabs right now. Jake Camarda is pretty solid as our punter. He's done a good job, and Rubright's really had a good camp as well. So they're competing, doing a good job. Chumley's a kid that's come in and kicked well as well for a punter. But the field goal and kickoff job has been a battle between Zirkle and Podlesny mostly, and those two guys continue to compete, and it'll probably go down to the wire as far as Pod and Zirk who kicks.
Chip Towers, are you unmuted?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Claude. Yeah, I'm unmuted. Kirby, just wondering, we're inside 2 weeks now. Do you know at this point that you will have any for sure outs on that first game?
No, I have no clue right now any for sure outs. So we don't have anybody that's right now going to be out.
If I could follow, since that one's kind of short, just a little bit on Arkansas's Felipe Franks. All indications are he's, emerging as the guy out of their camp. And I just wonder, he's at a different place, but obviously he's a guy you guys have gone against a good bit. How does that help you and when it comes to scouting and what to prepare for Arkansas's offense?
Not really, because he was in a different offense. When he played in Dan's offense, we had a lot of experience going against Dan and have gone against him a lot of years. And I've known Felipe for a long time. Got a lot of respect for him and his family, and recruited him while I was at Alabama. But as far as what he'll do in this offense, it's really a unknown. It's completely different because he's playing for a different coordinator. So I don't think there's a lot of advantage in terms of that. No.
Jay Rowe?
Yeah, Kirby, I wanted to ask you about Tyreek Stevenson, and I know you guys have a lot of different guys who are playing a lot of different roles, but where does he fit for you guys? Is he a guy that kind of does it all for you? And how do you feel about the way he's developed this preseason?
Tyreek's a player that came on as the year went on last year. He's done a really good job. He came on in the money role as the year went on and was a good matchup guy for tight ends, good blitzer, physical guy. He's played corner, he's played star, he's played money, and we've even sprinkled in some safety in there as a backup role with the concerns for COVID knocking somebody out. We just got to be deeper than we've ever been. But right now he's working at star along with Mark, and he's doing a good job of doing that. He's got a lot of versatility, though. He plays a lot of positions.
Paul Newberry, do you have a question?
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good.
Back to the quarterback situation. Does that give you any cause for concern to, going down to the wire with that decision and the uncertainty around? I don't, maybe you have an idea in your head, but at least on the outside, what is that like going down to the wire with trying to pick a quarterback?
Nah, it's not a problem for me. It's getting to be a norm here. So we've had it before. So it's not cause for concern among our staff or our organization or our kids, and we talk about it a lot with our players and make sure they understand where we are.
Dean Legge?
Well, Paul straight up took my question right before we were going to go there, Kirby. So let me ask about Jalen Carter. Guys like that, sometimes younger guys, they can hit walls. Have your younger guys hit walls yet?
I wouldn't say they've hit a wall yet because we've had so much spaced out practice. I would say our conditioning level across the board is a concern for me, and that's a lot of the freshmen, but that's a lot of players in general. I wonder, without having the same summer training that we've had, if that doesn't hinder sometimes our ability to sustain effort in practice. That's probably one of the things that concerns me the most when it comes to freshmen. So when you look at Jalen, here's a guy that's, he's big, he's athletic, he's a talented player, but how many plays can he play in a row and what can he sustain? And not having a body of work from spring in a typical Georgia summer, not a Zoom summer, allows those guys to get more conditioned. And that's a concern I've got for not only Jalen, but really all the freshmen as we move forward.
Brandon Sudge?
Hey, Kirby, so on Juwan Mathis, can you kind of take me through what you remember over the past, year or so and through his journey with the brain injury that he had? Like, did you think at the time that it was possible for him to come back? What do you remember from his determination through that? And is it kind of like in terms of the story, I guess you guys as coaching staff kind of pull for him to perform well in practice because he's endured all of that?
I missed the end of that, Brandon. I understood the beginning, but what would you say at the end?
So I was just saying, like, for a guy who's been through all of that, like, not necessarily to start, but you guys as a coaching staff pull for him to perform well in practice after everything that he's been through over the past year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, We don't pull for him more just because he's had the brain surgery. I mean, I'm not going to say that because we pull for all our kids. I mean, he's been through so much, and he's a bright-eyed, talented kid. There's a lot of guys that have confidence in DeJuan, and he's, the best thing that happened to him probably was all the reps he took on the scout team last year, because he went down there and got to get some live bullets coming at him. And although we couldn't hit him, we never hit the quarterback anyway. I still remember going to see him in the hospital, and he's, all his family members were down seeing him, and it was a scary, scary moment. And for him to push through that, and I forget what his weight went down to, but I know he got really skinny during that time. And for him to, put some weight back on and work hard in the off season. And I know during the COVID time, he was one of the guys that worked extremely hard. I mean, he would go out and just throw on his own and send us videos of him throwing on his own. So he's a really hard worker, and all those quarterbacks, to be honest with you, they're all competitors and good leaders.
William Newland, Red and Black.
Hey, Coach. Yeah, thinking about the SEC Medical Task Force policies, which were updated to include kind of a more thorough heart examination for players who test positive. Have those long-term risks associated with the illness been in the back of your mind this offseason, maybe talking with Ron Corson, and how have you kind of communicated and talked through that with your players and their families?
Well, I don't know what long-term risk you're referencing, because every flu virus, is associated with the possibility of getting myocarditis. And the research that's been done hasn't shown that COVID is a greater indicator of getting myocarditis than any other normal flu symptom. And we didn't actually check kids for myocarditis when they got the flu and they had other viruses. So now we've actually put ourselves in a better position, because we're testing the heart, we're doing EKGs, we're doing ultrasounds, we're checking everything now after this. So it's really much safer in terms of not wanting a player to get diagnosed or have myocarditis after having COVID, when before we didn't necessarily do all those tests after something that could have caused it. The key, and what we all want, is to not have a young man playing or performing or doing extra exercise and be dealing with myocarditis. So how do you prevent that? You test and you research and you look at it, and Ron and his staff are doing a tremendous job of that. And we're very fortunate at UGA to have a baseline test on every kid that's ever come in here. So after they have COVID, or maybe they have antibodies for COVID, we're able to test them and look and see what the differences are in their heart. And we're very fortunate to be able to do that, which makes me much more comfortable with the decisions that have been made.
Vance Levy, do you have a question?
You're pretty much a week out, a week and a half out. Each phase, offense, defense, special teams, you got anything particular that concerns you for each one of those? And with the different structure and practice, are they different than they typically are a week and a half out?
I've got all kinds of concerns, but I'm not going to put them on a platter for Coach Pittman to worry about. I mean, I've got concerns that we've got to deal with, and every coach has got concerns. When you watch the games last weekend, there's punt return touchdowns, kickoff return touchdowns, field goals blocked all over the place, and those are learning lessons. And if you use them the right way, you can try to prevent them from happening to your team. But concerns, I'm constantly worried about our ability to perform. We're going to have a lot of young men that they didn't get that spring game under their belt with 50, 60, 70, 93,000 in the spring game. That's like an extra game for our guys to get used to it. And we basically just finished spring practice Saturday in my mind, and that's we're a week from the game and we're just finishing spring practice. So we're behind, but we're even with everybody else. So we got to do a good job with what we've gotten.
David Pascal.
Hey, Kirby. A couple years ago, obviously with Jake and Justin, you had quarterbacks with different talents and you could bring them in and do different things. Might this be a similar situation with what you've got with the talents in that quarterback room? Could there be a deal where you bring one starts and another one comes in and maybe offers you something different?
It could be, yes.
Can you also then talk about since you've been here, you had Jake for a while, is there an excitement that comes with a quarterback competition that's Jake obviously accomplished a lot, but is there something kind of new and fresh and exciting about a competition?
Yeah, I mean, it makes for everybody to kind of put their mind on it. You rely on the people you've hired in your organization to help you make good decisions. Ultimately, those decisions fall with me, and I like the idea of, we didn't have much of a decision last year. So, this year it's been a lot more calculated in terms of reps. It's been a lot more calculated in terms of what we do with each guy and how we develop each guy. And they're all in different stages of their career, and they're all getting better. And I would argue that we've got a talented quarterback room in terms of depth. The important thing is getting the right one to lead this group.
Emily, would you like to ask a question?
Hey, Coach. I was just wondering, when I speak to some of your former players and current players, they pretty much all say that George Pickens has no ceiling, and if he does, it's very high. As long as he can stay out of trouble, he's going to be the next best thing. In your eyes, how much has he matured since last year? Is he the leader you need him to be right now?
George is a talented player. In terms of leadership, it starts from within, and it starts with him. He's got to do a great job of making sure he's handling all the things he's got to do, both on and off the field. And George is growing up, as all players do. And we need him to grow up faster. We need him to lead more. He's certainly a talented player, but sometimes that can be a disease at Georgia that affects you, and you have to be careful of that, because what makes George great is his love for the game. And you just can't let that be a weakness. You got to make sure it's a strength.
Kelly, do you have a question?
All mine got asked. Thanks.
All right. We have a little time left. Let's just open it up, and just remember to unmute your mic when you ask a question, and go ahead.
Coach Chip, just to wrap up the quarterbacks, for whatever reason, maybe it's your rotation, but I'm asking you if you could explain. It seems like we've just seen and heard a little bit less of Stetson Bennett than normal. Should we read anything in that, he hasn't been as prominent in scrimmages and things? Is that a representation at all of the hierarchy going into the final week?
Well, you could probably read that into it. And I think the biggest thing with Stetson is we have a body of work that we didn't have with the other players. So you have three kids that are really unknown, and you've got Stetson, who took every single rep last year with the twos, and he went all camp with the twos. So if you look at the reps he's taken and that he's been around, we've been able to evaluate him and see him, and he's done a really nice job in our scrimmages when he's repped. But it's a little bit of, we've seen him the most, and we're trying to evaluate the other guys.
Hey, Kirby, with JT Daniels, what is the difference between him being cleared to practice and what he needs to do in order to be cleared to play?
Be tackled, be able to be hit, and that's a medical decision, which is usually based on, the interesting thing on JT, I don't know that everybody understands, is he's post-op a lot further than most ACLs. So post his surgery fixing it, but he had a repair done, I want to say it was December or January. He had to go in and do some other things to help fix it from the original surgery. And that was, before we even really knew about him or were with him, but that put him behind a little bit. So the part about him getting cleared, we certainly expect him to get cleared and think he will get cleared, but that's not my decision. That goes a lot into Ron and them. It goes into flexibility. It goes into strength. How far is the left knee from the right knee? What is the girth of the knee? What is the muscle mass missing? There's a lot of things that go into that the doctors have to do to clear him medically to take hits and be able to play.
Kirby, you mentioned earlier that close quarterback competitions are starting to be the norm in Athens. Is that experience helping you and your coaching staff right now in terms of looking for things these guys are doing well at practice, seeing how they're taking control of or becoming a leader on the offense, stuff like that?
Well, I think anytime you do something a couple times, you get better at it. I mean, it's like we've been through this a couple times, and the interesting thing for me is I've kind of been through it with different coordinator, and each time I've done it, it's kind of been with a different coordinator. So it's like you learn what each one wants, what each one kind of commands, and you try to figure out what gives you the best chance to win and what gives you the best chance to score points. So there's some similarities between all of them, all the competitions in the decision-making process, but I certainly like having a proven guy as well.
Kirby, what have you liked about Jermaine Burton and how he's, how he fits in with your receiver core?
He's explosive. He loves the game of football. He's got really good hands. He's a very consistent ball catcher. He can go up. He can explode up. I remember watching him in high school. He can jump boxes that are extremely high, and he's a talented guy. And he's learning our system, so he's not there yet, but he's a good player. And, so many years we've played here, we've had these games where early in the year we could kind of build to a crescendo and bring the freshmen along. And unfortunately this year, with the schedule we got, it's not going to fall that way. I mean, you look at the first 4 games, and it's just a weird year for having depth at some positions with freshmen. They got to be ready to play really fast. And they got less time to do it because they didn't get a spring ball. They didn't get, some of the summer. And so we're having to make decisions really quick when it comes to getting our depth set and our roster set for the games we have.
We got time for one more question. Anybody?
Kirby, how was the kicking at this last scrimmage on Saturday?
I don't understand what you're asking. How did they do?
As far as field goals made, kicking it deep on kickoffs.
Yeah, so Pod and Zirkle are 2 competing really for the kickoffs job. Pod has consistently had better hang. Also, Zirkle's had good hits, but hang time is a big part of that, and Pod's won the hang time and depth battle when it comes to that. As far as field goal kicking, they were pretty similar Saturday. Zirkle might have been 1 percentage point or 2 percentage points better than Pod, but Pod's had a little better percentage average over the body of work.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.